This is an updated and expanded version of our original teaching before the harvest. Though it's still a short teaching, please don't underestimate its importance. Hey, this is Off the Cuff, and I'm Steve from TorahFamily.org. When it comes to Bible prophecy, there are many different perspectives as to how and when things will play out. Those who've seen our teachings know we're very open to the timing of when things could actually play out. We've given many different teachings ourselves as to how things could start at the spring or even the fall holy days. This teaching will give support to how things could start specifically in the days after Shavuot and leading up to the fall holy days. Though this teaching will be short, I believe you'll see the importance to it. This is not to say our other teachings that point to other perspectives are wrong. Those teachings will remain up because we're all constantly seeking understanding on this. However, we believe this short teaching will definitely give strong support for everything to begin sometime between Shavuot and the fall holy days. That being said, please consider Isaiah 18. Isaiah chapter 18, starting in verse 3. All you people of the world, you who live on the earth, when a banner is raised on the mountains, you will see it, and when a trumpet sounds, you will hear it. This is what Yahweh says to me. I will remain quiet and will look on from my dwelling place, like shimmering heat in the sunshine, like a cloud of dew in the heat of harvest. For before the harvest, when the blossom is gone and the flower becomes a ripening grape, he will cut off the shoots with pruning knives and cut down and take away the spreading branches. They will all be left to the mountain birds of prey and to the wild animals. The birds will feed on them all summer, the wild animals all winter. In the midst of multiple chapters that discuss a coming judgment to various nations, all leading up to chapter 24, where we see a global earthquake, we see these verses here in chapter 18 talking to the people of the world. For the longest of time, I've read these verses and considered them in the light of everything starting before the harvest was to begin. However, the word for before here isn't a word for a sequence in timing, but rather of placement, standing in front of the harvest, thus standing before the harvest. This is the Hebrew for this word. It means to stand before, or in the face of. So, where else is this exact same word with the same vowel points used? Exodus chapter 30, verse 36. Exodus 34, verse 34. Leviticus 10, verse 1. Leviticus 12, verse 7. Leviticus 19, verse 32. Numbers 16, verse 17. Deuteronomy 19, verse 17. 2 Samuel chapter 11, verse 15. There are many more, but you get the picture. This word is almost always used in the sense of being in the presence of the topic being discussed, standing in front of or facing something or someone, thus before. But it seems this word, with all the other various vowel points, carries a meaning directly related with the face, as in the face of a man, face up, face down, facing in a direction, to stand in the face of opposition. Again, all dealing with placement, not timing. That being my point, when it's interpreted as before, it's not talking in the sense of sequential timing like this happened before the other. No, it's talking in the essence of physical placement, as in he's standing before you, meaning in front of, before. So, we see here in Isaiah chapter 18, verse 5, a timing for judgment is given. the time of a harvest, but not just any harvest. It specifies it to be the grape harvest. This happens in late summer to early fall, but this is actually the time of many harvests, not just grapes. It's even a time for a second wheat harvest, all to be harvested for the Feast of Ingathering, as seen here in Exodus chapter 23, verse 16, and in Exodus 34, verse 22, the Feast of Ingathering. This is the Feast of Sukkot, that which many call the Feast of Tabernacles. This is the time to celebrate the harvest that just came in, thus the Feast of Ingathering. And for what it's worth, this celebration is parallel to what we see in Isaiah 24, when we see judgment coming on the world, when judgment appears to come at a time of celebration, with hints of the grape harvest as well. This could easily be the celebration of Ingathering, Sukkot, which includes the grape harvest. As we've discussed in our teaching, Knowing the Day, His people will know the season and eventually the day as it draws closer in, just not the hour. And it seems this verse in Isaiah pretty much points us to the season, the fall harvest. We know the 144,000 are called first fruits, as seen here in Revelation 14. While I know this could be a reference to the day of first fruits and Shavuot in the spring holy days, we must remember there's always a first fruits gathering with every harvest. The 144,000 could simply be the first fruits gathering in the fall harvest, as Yeshua was the first fruits in the spring. And when considering our verses from Isaiah 18, the timing discussed is at the time of the grape harvest. When looking at it, it's definitely hard to ignore, and I believe this is something we should keep on our radar as we all continue to watch and pray. Ironically, we see something of this nature in Revelation 14 right after we see the 144,000 mentioned. That's when we actually see two harvests taking place at the same time. Revelation 14 is virtually three visions that all overlap each other. In verses 1 through 5, we see the 144,000 already standing with Yeshua. In verses 6 through 13, the eternal gospel is declared. Then the destruction of Babylon and the rule of the beast begins. In verses 14 through 20, the two harvests take place, wheat and grapes. This goes in line with Isaiah 18, a world event at the time of the grape harvest. Something I find equally as interesting is how we see the same word for before in Isaiah 18 with similar vowel points used here in Joel chapter 2. Joel 2:31, the sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of Yahweh. Again, this word, with all the other various vowel points, seems to carry a meaning directly related with the face, as in the face of a man, face up, face down, facing in a direction, to stand in the face of opposition. Many have read this verse in Joel over the years as if the moon has to turn red before, meaning to happen first, and then the great and dreadful day of Yahweh happens afterwards. However, this word for before actually implies it happens on that day. In other words, the verse can easily read like this: the sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, at the coming of the great and dreadful day of Yahweh. The day it actually happens, or in the face of it happening. This changes everything for those who are reading it to have a sequential meaning. So the moon doesn't turn red days, weeks, months, or even years before the day of judgment. No, it turns red in the presence of that judgment. This now shows how Joel 2 and Amos 9 ties perfectly with Revelation chapter 6. the sun goes dark and the moon turns red on that same day. Notice it says the whole moon turns red, possibly pointing to the middle of the month, the start of Sukkot. And knowing Sukkot is the Feast of Ingathering, we can see how Isaiah 18 ties with this all just the same. It takes place at the time of the harvest, the ingathering. Then we see Yahweh spreading his tent over them for Sukkot in chapter 7. So, is it possible that just as we're to pick our spotless lamb on the 10th day of the first month for Passover, which takes place on the evening of the 14th, that Yeshua picks his spotless bride on the 10th day of the 7th month, the Day of Atonement, then takes his bride just in time to celebrate Sukkot with her, just moments before the judgment comes. Something to think about. Well, that's all I have for this short teaching. Think about it. Pray about it. But more than anything, be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. Until next time, Shalom.